Good morning. I had an early morning this morning to get to work. It's 8 o'clock and I'm already in Lake Erie on the New York side, right in Buffalo Harbor. You can hear a boat taking off in the background. What we're doing is fishing for bass today. And I've got an interesting situation. You can see this riprap, and there's probably about a half a mile of it. There's a large flat off this riprap. The water's about 8 feet deep, and I'm looking at the screen as I'm talking to you, and it's full of bait fish. These are suspended bait fish. They're just below the surface. They're in about 8 feet of water, and every once in a while there's a bigger pod of bigger bait fish deeper down close to the bottom. The bait fish are so thick that it's actually trying to change the scale on this hummingbird. So these are ideal conditions to cast crankbaits. And what I'm going to do today is try a new series of Rapalas. They're called the Rapala Scatter Raps. And I'm going to be casting them to the riprap and out in the open. And I got a feeling we're going to get some nice fish. Okay, Mulligan, you ready for some action? Okay.
Let's go fishing. People, when you're in the mood, let's go fishing. Well, it's just me and you. Head on down to the fishing hole. Grab your hat, get your pole. Let's go fishing when you're in the mood.
Canadian Sport Fishing is brought to you by Rapala, premium fishing gear crafted from experience. Yamaha, conquer outdoors. INSEGT Defend Patch, deep-free protection from biting insects. Dickies, quality workwear since 1922.
Okay, nice hit. Oh, you know, we've got such a gorgeous morning. It's nice and bright out. And you know what? This is a decent bass on that new scatter wrap. I'm gonna try to see if I can get it to come on top. Boy, that sun is bright. I just took my glasses off. Is it gonna jump? It's trying to. Come on, it's a little largemouth. Perfect. Oh, there it goes, jumps under the boat. I'm going to wait till it's done jumping because I'm going to try lifting it up into the boat. Come on. He's got just that front hook. I'm going to use the leader. I'm using that Suffix. This is 20-pound test fluorocarbon. And the reason I'm doing that is because there are pike mixed in with some of the bass in here. Now, isn't that a beautiful largemouth? You can see he's got nice color, nice full belly. And look it. I really like it when fish hit the front hook because that tells me that they want that bait fish. They've hit it head first. So I'm going to try popping that out. Yeah, another look at the fish. Gorgeous largemouth. Not bad. You know, it's about 9 o'clock. We got a nice sunny day and beautiful conditions. It's going to be about 75 degrees Fahrenheit. And this is a nice start. Okay, I'm just going to get him back in the water. And because I'm high up, I got to sit on my bow here without falling in. And I'm just going to extend him out and release him. There. Nice largemouth. Gorgeous colors. And there he goes. Now, you know, these new Rapala Scatter Raps are ideal if you're cranking in water that's less than 10 feet deep, especially if you have bait fish around. Now, this is the actual Scatter Rap crank. You can see it's a little crankbait, but look at this unique lip. okay? It's very oval in shape, and that's what gives it that very erratic action. So besides going from side to side, it'll also go out the side, one side and the other side. That's why they call it a scatter wrap. Now you can see that even though it's got a split ring, I'm using one of those small Lure Jensen snaps because I want to make sure there's lots of play there. Now I'm using this very bright chartreuse colored one, but a lot of people that would be casting when the bass are feeding on minnows would be using the natural silver color. This size, by the way, is ideal. It's about 4 inches from the front of the lip to the back of the lure, and the actual body is about 3 inches long. And it seems to have just the right tantalizing action to get these fish to strike. So what I'm going to do is just follow this shoreline, and then I'm going to fish some shoals out in open water, and I'm hoping to get even bigger fish.
Xmark, you find fish, catch of the day.
James, it's Tony from Canadian Sport Fishing calling. How you doing?
Pretty good, yourself?
I'm fantastic. And I'm looking at your picture, the big muskie. My goodness, buddy. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. I need you to think back to that day, what technique you used and what you did with the fish, how that all worked out for you. Jam it all in there and get her going, okay?
All right, well, we were out in Georgian Bay, and we had 2 fish day, and it was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And within about 10 minutes, we just fishing a deep ledge, and yeah, that fish come up and just crushed it about 10 feet from the boat. Pretty good battle, a couple of jumps and flips, and got her in the net, and took a couple of pictures, and let her go on her way.
Closed captioning is brought to you by Arctic Armor. Warm, dry, alive.
You know, if you love to fish and you're looking for a really good fishing jacket, I've got to tell you, this Arctic Armor jacket that floats, it has 3 layers of Insultech insulation material, lots of pockets, is ideal. Let me take you through some of the features. First of all, look, it's got this little neck cuff so that when it gets really cold and you zip up, even on those windy days, you're going to stay warm. Also, it has an adjustable hood on both sides, so you can have a nice snug fit. It also has an adjustable zipper. They also have 4 nice D-rings that you can hang things from. There are 4 large-sized cargo pockets. The bottom ones have snaps to keep them nice and sealed. The top one has zippers, and there's nice lined pockets to warm your hands up. So you know what? If you're looking for a good jacket all around, winter, summer, that floats, check the Arctic Armor. You're going to be very happy. You know what? There's just something about bass fishing in the middle of the day when you have a nice, bright, sunny day. I love the way they hit. This guy just smashed it. You know, sometimes presentation can make all the difference in the world. So whether it's the new action of the scatter wrap or whether it's the way you fish it, just bouncing along the bottom so that that lip goes back and forth, or even just cranking it so it's just below the surface. Now, I don't know if I can flip this guy. I'm going to try. I've switched to my bait caster and see if I can lift this guy right up by the line. Going to be careful. Oh, he's on one hook now. You know what? I better grab the net. And I think that's the safest way to handle this fish. And we got the lure on the net. So what I'm going to try to do first is just get the fish off. And man, did he thrash and jump. Now, isn't that a nice smallmouth? Look at that. Now he hit really hard. The one thing that I love about smallmouth bass is the way they get these tiger stripes. Now, you know, on our website at Ask Italo, I had someone just ask me recently, what's the best way to identify a largemouth and a smallmouth? I'll give you the tip right now. You see this dorsal fin? On a smallmouth, it looks like one continuous fin. See how even here, there's about a 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch of fin? On a largemouth, that front dorsal goes down and literally ends at the back, and then the second one starts again, okay? So a lot of guys say, oh, you know, look for a small mouth. Well, I've got largemouth with small mouths and small mouths with big mouths. So the best ID feature is right here, okay? So this is definitely a smallmouth because this fin is all connected. If the fin looked like it was 2 different ones, it would be a largemouth. Beautiful fish. Just gonna get him back in the water. He's in the net, and perfect. You know, when you're releasing fish, you have to be aware that they exert a lot of energy when they actually fight. So especially if you talk about them like we do on camera, it's very important to let them revive a little bit. And as soon as they have their colors back and they're sitting in a vertical position with their back up, you know they're ready for the release, just like this guy. I'm just going to get him out of the net a little bit. Beautiful smallmouth. Look at those brilliant colors. And he's slowly going to head to the bottom because you can see that the water's cold, so they don't have a very high metabolism. Now, you know, when it comes to these new Rapala Scatter Raps, the crank works great. It has a much wider action, and it goes down to about 7-8 feet. What I'm holding up right here is the Scatter Rap Minnow. This is what it looks like when it comes out of the box. And you can see that if you read the bottom, it says Minnow. So that's where you know which model it is. And also, you can see that it's longer. So it's literally like the original Rapala. It's made out of balsa wood. You can see this is a very natural color, but it's got that special scatter lip. Okay, it's almost like a scoop. It reminds me almost like a spoon bill at the front. And that's what catches the water so that you get that side to side, and then every once in a while it also glides. Side to side and gliding action. Great lure if you're trolling and you want to get down to about 10 feet with a long line, or if you're casting and working shorelines or fishing on shoals. Always use the natural color, the minnow colors, when you think fish are feeding, and use the bright, gaudy colors like chartreuse and fluorescent pink, or ones that have chartreuse highlights when you think the fish aren't feeding and you want to make them strike. That way you'll catch more fish.
Fisher girl! Catch the passion!
You know, when it comes to taking kids fishing, you don't need to have a lot of tackle. What I'm holding up here is a satchel that's got a really good amount of assortment of different types of lures.
Well, exactly. And the clear top sort of allows you to see what's in the case before you actually have to go rifling through it. And this one has a very excellent variety in it. Has a couple spinners, has some rattlers, has some of the rubber grubs, and some of those plastic little fishy guys.
Yeah, you can always add to these. Yeah, these are minnow baits, topwaters and stuff. But really, you can fish anywhere with these.
Exactly. And another thing is you can actually take these little ones out to sort of put them over here to keep your lures from getting tangled up, right?
You can make them different size storage compartments.
Very handy. And has the pink little clasps on it to keep it girly.
I like that. So it's not just functional, it looks good too.
Absolutely.
One of the most important invasive species that we have in Ontario that has really changed our systems, our water system, is the zebra mussel. Now, these things came in the ballast of ships years ago, and they've actually become quite comfortable growing in the Great Lakes and even some of our inland lakes. The problem with these zebra mussels is that they're filter feeders, and where they grow and filter the water, other fish tend to move out. Also, they grow so rapidly in such high numbers that when they multiply, especially on water intakes and so on, they actually clog them up, that they're so thick. For fishing, we get stuck on the bottom because your line gets caught on the zebra mussel, or it can cut your line. So one thing that I would really advise you to do, if you're a boat fisherman that goes from one body of water to another, you like to fish different places. If you fish somewhere like the Great Lakes, or some of the other bodies of water connected to the Great Lakes where there are zebra mussels, make sure that you wash down the hull of your boat and also the live wells and the bilge, so there's no trace of zebra mussels. That way you won't be moving them from one body of water to another, and that's good conservation. Oh man, did that fish hit that Rapala Scatter. I'm going to call it the crank because that's what it is. It's a little crankbait. You know, the nice thing about this Minn Kota, it's like luxury, man. I'm using it, number one, to go along the shoreline here and cast all the rock piles, but we've got a breeze that would normally blow me into the rocks. And because I'm fishing by myself, it's nice because all I got to do is hit the spot lock. See that little anchor symbol that's right there? Right there where my finger is? And right now you can see it on the remote. It's got the propeller running, so that means the electric is activated. But because this is an autopilot unit, it's got the little anchor symbol and A for anchored. So I'm not going anywhere. It's keeping me in about a 10-foot circle. So it's so great. And if I wanted to really lock the boat in position, I would put the talon down at the back, which I don't think I need. Now, this guy's got a couple of, he's got one treble. He hit it at the front again, so I got to be careful here. I'm not going to use the net because I'm hoping I can just lift him up. If he shakes off, that's fine. This is like a nice 18, 19-inch smallmouth. Wow, look at that. Now, how am I going to hold this guy? He's got that front, oh good. Back hook is out. And I gotta, maybe like this. Hopefully he won't try to jump out of my hand. I've got my pliers right on the floor there, but I'm trying to see if I can just wiggle it out. These hooks are small, but they are sharp, so they stick. Look at, there's that little Rapala Scatter Rap, and that's the crank, it's the small one, and bright yellow color. Now the reason I'm using this bright yellow color, even though it's nice and bright out, is because these smallmouth were only feeding earlier in the morning and later in the afternoon. So what I'm doing is trying to get them to strike. Isn't that a gorgeous smallmouth? You can see the beautiful colors here. Let me give you that look. Isn't that gorgeous? That fish is about 19 inches long. I'm guessing it's probably about, I'm pushing 4 pounds. It's a lean fish. So even though it's feeding, it hasn't been feeding that heavy. What a nice smallie. Okay, I'm gonna get him back into the water. Oh, nice high boat. Look at this, gorgeous. Oh, that water is cold. Beautiful smallmouth. And you know what, he wants to go. So I'm just gonna hold him there for a second so you can appreciate how gorgeous he is with that sun shining on him. I'm gonna turn him around. Can I get my hand under his belly? Probably not. There he goes, good fish. Now, one of the things that I'm doing, I'm using a colored line, and I've got a couple of colors. So you can see on the spinning rod that's there, and also on the bait caster, I have that bright yellow. That's the Suffix 832 braid. On this reel right here, this is the Suffix, but it's the ice line. And I really like it. I think this is 8 or 10 pound test. I'm not sure, but it's really low diameter. So I can cast even into the wind with these lighter balsa wood baits like the Scatter Raps, no problem. But the reason I've got this colored braid on there is so I can watch the line. If I see my line jump, whether it's reacting to rocks that are on the bottom or whether it's a fish that just taps it and then hits it, like happened on that particular situation with the fish I just released. Now, because I'm using a colored braided line, I've gone with a fluorocarbon leader for about 2.5 feet long. So you can see right here from my left hand, that's where the connection is. And that connection, all I did was melt the tip of the fluorocarbon leader. So there's a little bit of a bead there. You might be able to see it real close up. And then I've used the perfect Snell knot, or you could use a uni knot, because where the bead is, the line is as strong as the main fluorocarbon. And I've really tightened it down, so it's a really smooth connection. That can even go through my guides. But this fluorocarbon is very smooth, and the important thing is that it's invisible. And then of course, I've got a very light snap, and then my crank that's down here. So not all fluorocarbon is the same. Some people think that if they buy a large spool, a fluorocarbon line that's designed to be fishing with on your reel, that you can cut that into sections and use it for leader. You can, but you know what? It's nowhere near as strong as the actual fluorocarbon, the leader material, which this is 100%. So if you're, you know, a little bit picky about your fishing and you want to make sure that you've got the best presentation and also uses the strongest fluorocarbon leader, Suffix is a good one to use. You know, it's so nice when you're fishing Lake Erie because the water is so clear. And a lot of times if you're looking, I mean, look how clear the water is. You can see that smallmouth, he's down about 5-6 feet. Look at a beautiful green color. I saw him come out right off the break and come up and just smash that thing. And I've only got him by the back hook. So it's almost like fishing in the ocean. You know, I do a lot of fishing in Florida. And when you're fishing some of the reefs, the colors of the water is almost the same, nice green color. So I'm just trying to keep his, I'm going to try to land him again without the net. See if I can just grab the leader because I'm using that fluorocarbon leader. But look at, I just love to see the colors. You can see he's just got the one treble hook in his mouth. So he just nipped at it. One of the challenges that we have here is that there's so many bait fish. So my sonar even here, you can see, look at, see all this cloudy stuff on the bottom here? That's all bait fish. And then there's pods suspended up. So we're in 11 feet of water right on the break. And these fish just can feed at will. So I don't know why they even hit a lure. I guess it's just irresistible. And is he going to fall off or am I going to be able to get him? Let me get him on this side here. And if he falls off, that's fine. There. And I'm just going to get him like that. Look, nice smallmouth, chunky fish. I think they just look great. You know, I've caught them where they're almost black in color, but here in Lake Erie, they're just the classic smallmouth bass colors. You can see that nice marbling on the side. This guy's been feeding on those bait fish. That fish will probably go about 2.5, 2 3/4 pounds. Just a beautiful smallmouth. To get just casting like this body baits along the breaks and those little crank baits that they just can't resist. Okay, I'm gonna get them back in the water. And I'm just gonna get the trolling motor around. And very gently, without falling into the water, I'm gonna hold them there so you can appreciate, look at, they call them bronze backs or green bass. And he's got his mouth on my finger. I'm just gonna hold him out a little bit. Let's see how far, not that far. I was gonna say, let's see how far we can see him go down. Now, you know, I've been casting both a bait caster and also using a spinning outfit. For some of the lighter lures, like the Rapala Scatter Raps, because they're balsa wood, and the smaller ones, like the crank and even the shad, it pretty well helps to use the lowest diameter, even in the braided line like the Suffix 832, and also to use a spinning outfit. So here's the outfits that I've been using. These are a couple of them here, and you can see I made this nice little rack. So there's my spinning outfits. This is a Rapala Concept TI, probably their top of the line rod, very light, weighs about 4 ounces. And that's the shift spinning reel. And over here I've got the Volt on the shift spinning rod. And there's the 2 scatter wraps. You can see this is the minnow that's got that nice long body, and this is the crank. Okay, so both of these are one-piece rods, and both of them have the colored braided line, so I can keep my eyes on it. So if I'm throwing some of the larger baits, I'll use my bait caster. So this is the actual shift bait caster on the Concept TI rod. So, I mean, these 3 outfits are ideal. If you see a lot of these tournament fishermen where they've got 3 to 6 rods rigged and ready to go in the front of their boats, is because they have very specific lures that they're looking to do specific presentations, like a spinnerbait, plastic worm, crankbait, topwater, and so on. And they're all rigged on specific rods. And if they're doing target casting, they'll probably be using a bait caster, because it's ideal because you can slow down the line and stop it with your thumb so that lure falls exactly where you want it to. So there's a reason why you should have more rods and reels. You'll catch more fish.
Canadian Sport Fishing is brought to you by Suffix, the world's most hardcore fishing line. Yamaha, conquer outdoors. INSEGT Defend Patch, deep free protection from biting insects. Dickies, quality workwear since 1922.
The newest Rapala that just hit the market this year is the Scatter Rap, which is right here. And you can see that it's got the traditional minnow body, just like the old original number 11 Rapala. But look at the lip. I'm going to just compare these to you. Look, the one in the right here is the standard lip that makes the lure track really nicely, even at high speed from side to side. But this new lip configuration not only gives you that nice side-to-side wobble, but every once in a while it goes to one side, then it goes to the other side. Almost like a bait fish that's injured or that's changing its position.